Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Natural Childbirth 101. This is Kaleem Joy. I'm a licensed midwife, a certified professional midwife, and a certified pediatric massage therapist. I'm really looking forward to this topic. I think sometimes we get caught in the past. When we get caught in the past, it can keep us in a loop that makes it difficult to move forward. And I want to relate that to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding. So as we're welcoming everybody on tonight, I've got a little voice thing going on, so bear with me tonight. And I want to welcome all of you to our live tonight. So last week I mentioned to you that tonight I would be in Florida, which I am. So those of you who are on the West Coast, it's 7 o'clock. For me right now, it's 10 o'clock. So I've been anxiously awaiting that 10 o'clock hour so I could chat with you tonight and bring you an interesting thought-provoking message. For those of you who may be expecting or maybe plan to expect again in the future, maybe you're getting close to birth, maybe you've already birthed and you're now going through the newness of parenting, breastfeeding. Maybe it's successful, maybe it's having challenges, maybe you've had children and you're not planning to have another one for a couple of years. Whatever your circumstances, and even if you happen to be watching this and you're done having children, it's an important topic to understand. So being in Florida, I have not been here. I have family who lives here, and I get to visit them, often enough during the year, my mother. And I've never been to Florida in the month of August. So it is August 28th, 2019. And I was not familiar with the amount of humidity and how predictable their storms would be. So in learning about clouds and rainbows tonight, a few days ago, as predicted, around the 3 o'clock hour, the clouds came in, nice and dark gray, and I began to learn about their afternoon wind and rainstorms, and they come and often are a quick downpour and they're done with them and on they go, and they come and they go and they come and they go. Unlike the West Coast, when it rains, it just kind of continues to rain. It's rare that it just rains and then is gone. So we were expecting this little raindrops, and it came in, and you could hear it crashing against the windows and raining rather ferociously outside and the wind blowing. And then it began to quiet, and the storm was gone, and it began to pass. And I thought, I want to look and see where the sun is, because when clouds move away, what's behind them? The sun, right? So I saw the sun beginning to peek out and shine, and so I thought, ooh, it's shining that direction, which means there might be a rainbow. And I love rainbows. I love going in search of waterfalls, and I love rainbows. So it was very predictable, and I thought there's got to be one out there. So sure enough, we looked out the window, and there was this very faint rainbow. And I thought, oh, how lovely. A rainbow after that lovely, just quick little storm. Well, that beautiful rainbow that was very diffuse began to brighten and brighten and brighten until it was a beautiful rainbow on the green here and the beautiful sort of white and blue sky. Well, what then appeared was a very soft, subtle rainbow over the top of that one that was almost not detectable, but it was there. So I thought about that and how often when I'm talking to new parents or those that are getting ready to be parents, there's things in the past, especially if they've had losses, say they've had a miscarriage, or maybe their birth didn't go the way they wanted it to the first time or the second time or whatever. Hang in there with me. I've got some broadcasting problem here. Let's see if I can home in on it and get it to reconnect here. We'll continue on Instagram though. It'll come back to us shortly. So I thought about that, and in the childbearing years, so many times I have talked to families about what the big dark cloud is that happens to be hanging over their situation. And when you think about this big dark cloud that could be hanging over a situation, it can be anything in life. It doesn't have to be in the childbearing years. It can be absolutely anything. And when that occurs, we sometimes can get caught up in the news story by feeling that we have to follow the recreation of what the old story was, right? And so let's say that you've had a miscarriage, or let's say you had problems with breastfeeding, or maybe you had some things that came up in your birth, or maybe you've had a situation in life that gave you cause to pause, and something that created that darker cloud, or something that was overhead. There comes a time in life when we have to be able to give it a voice, address it, tell it it's heard, and then allow it to be let go. And I find that when it comes to birth or pregnancy or breastfeeding, that this is a really, really super important element. Because if you hold on to the past will not necessarily give you what you want to believe in for the future. Now, if everything went well, then you can believe in that. If everything didn't go well, then you have a choice. You have a choice either way, to believe in what you have experienced as something that is going to repeat itself, or that you don't want it to repeat itself. So let's talk about birth, for instance. Now with birth, if you've had a great experience and you want to do that again, then hold to the things that you did in being able to get those to happen. So I'm going to shut this live off on Facebook for a moment, and I'm going to try and reboot it. Let's see what happens here. Pardon me for a moment. Let's see if we can get this back up again. There we go. And welcome back. I hope you'll join me again on Facebook. This is Colleen Joy, licensed midwife, certified pediatric massage therapist, and certified professional midwife. Now, in talking about birth and how the past, when those births go well, yes, it's something to hold to. Welcome back, Jessica. And it's something to look at and say, how did I do that? How did I have that pregnancy or that birth or the breastfeeding? What did I do that created that way? What choices did I make? How did I handle nutrition or my movement or my life and my mental and my physical and my emotional well-being? How did I create that birth to happen that way? And when you can understand that, you can help yourself to recreate that again in life, right? Now, maybe there's a pregnancy, a birth, a breastfeeding that didn't go well. And that's the dark cloud. And we need to recognize that sometimes we have to acknowledge what the dark cloud is that's looming over us. Because usually it has to do with fears, doubts, apprehensions, and they are of what has occurred in the past. So I encourage you to take past pregnancies or past births or past breastfeeding and begin to give it a voice as if it was another person. Let it talk. Write it down. Take that journal, write it down, give it a voice, let it really spill. And let it spill about what it was happy about and what it was not happy about. The people that might have caused some disarray in those situations. And help it to have the voice, because when you do and you get it out on paper and you begin to say, all right, if I'm have that dark cloud that's hanging over me that usually is fear, doubt, or apprehensions, what is it that caused me those in that situation? When we can address those, we can begin to say, if this is what occurred and it didn't lead me down the path that I wanted, what do I want to do differently, or choices that I want to make differently to hopefully have a new path to believe in, that I can let go of the past and begin to welcome a new and different path. Because no two births are exactly alike. No two babies are exactly alike. No two experiences in our life are exactly alike. Now, I will often use a homeopathic with women, with birth givers, called semisophuga. And semisophuga, for me, is very classic when there's a big dark cloud hanging over their heads that is causing fear, doubt, or apprehensions. And in pregnancy, in birth, in breastfeeding, fear and doubt are something that can take away your experience, and it can cause you to have more fears and doubts and anxieties. So once you understand what those are, and you need to be able to address them so that you can make different choices, then you go looking for what are the different choices. Now, there are some times when I have supported a family, and it wasn't until their 6th baby or 7th baby that they made a different choice. And after they make those different choices, they begin to say, why didn't I do this sooner? Because sometimes we get used to the uncomfortableness, but it is the known. So we do it over and over again. And there's a wonderful phrase that says, craziness or insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different results. And so we have to address that within ourselves, no matter what the project is. And on the majority of what I talk about is our pregnancies, birth, postpartum, and parenting, right? And so when you look at that, begin to understand what those differences may be. Now, sometimes there are things that can't be changed, but we can change how we go about dealing with them. So, for instance, sometimes there is situations that no matter what is tried, no matter the differences that are made, the outcome always seems to be the same. So in those situations, such as a birth that results in a cesarean section every time, firstly with that, be cautious about ever having the first cesarean, because sometimes that leads you down a path. That being said, sometimes that's the only path a woman can go down. So how does she change that? How does she stop that cesarean from happening? She can go about doing all the things that she can, and maybe that's the route that her body and her babies have to take. But it should be less than 10% of our population who does that, right? Excuse me. So begin looking at what those things are that occurred. If you're always having swelling or constipation in pregnancy, you need to look at why and what are those solutions and how can they be changed. If there's always tears in your births and you're always having to be sutured, take a look at that. What are the choices? What are the options? What things can be done to help keep a perineum intact whenever possible? If there's always medications or always interventions or you're always being induced, look at why. Is it that you get tired of being pregnant? Is it that they start worrying about your blood pressure? Is it that the doc or any care provider is going on vacation? Is it that you go overdue all the time? What is the reason for the induction? And begin starting to look for resources to help you with being able to change that story. Unless it's the story you want, and then that's okay. It's your story. So let's talk about breastfeeding, for instance. You have one baby, and during that first breastfeeding session that goes on with your baby, there seems to be a lot of difficulties. Maybe it's milk supply, maybe it's a tongue tie, maybe the nipples have gotten injured, maybe there's difficulties in handling the newness of parenting and the demands that it takes. Whatever those are, let them have a voice, honor and give them place, and then if you're going to have another baby, begin changing that story, saying, what are the things that I learned from that first story, and how can I help myself and my baby to have a better start, a better success at breastfeeding, and being able to make things go in an improved way. All right? And I've talked a lot about a lot of different scenarios in that, from pregnancy for nutrition and folic acid and versus methylfolate. We've talked about posterior babies, small babies, large babies, inductions. We've talked about VBACs. We've talked about going through labor and all the things with the pelvis and the passenger and the power, and a lot of these things to help give you an understanding of things that you can do to have a better experience. Everyone wants to have a positive experience. They want to have a experience that gives them something that is positive that they want to remember and to pass along to their child, and to greet their baby with joy and happiness. And sometimes the pregnancy and the birth isn't the hard part, it's the breastfeeding. Sometimes the breastfeeding goes well and it's sleeping, right? All of you parents who have had children, sleep is a number one topic of discussion, right? And then it goes into how to raise them, how to give them solids, or what you're going to do for schooling or health care, and it goes on and on and on. And you think that once you get the baby out, that everything is simple and easy, but parenting takes work, right? And I talked a little bit about that last week. So I want you to start looking at what clouds are you holding on to, be it in childbearing parts or be it in life. What clouds are you holding on to? And which ones are dark clouds that you would really like to change into rainbows? Or some of them that might just be a beautiful blue sky with wonderful, beautiful white puffy clouds that just make you smile. And those are great. It's great to have them. But start looking at what you want to release so that the past does not creep into the present or the future in a way that isn't giving you what you hope for. Things that you can believe in. Now, there's a lot of understanding about starting with the end in mind. And I do believe that when we know what we want, we also can know what we don't want. So we have to be able to understand what's possible. So when it comes to doing certain things in your life, begin thinking, what is possible? What can I imagine as the end result? Then, being able to know what that is, it helps you to know how to map out that journey. So if your end result is to have an unmedicated, normal, natural birth where your baby is healthy and strong, and so are you, then you have to address what are the elements that are going to give you the maximum ability to be able to follow that road to that end result, right? And it's that goes back to that Beatles song that I've mentioned a few times, that in the lyrics he says, any road will get you there if you don't know where you're going. So you have to know where you want to end up, how you want to travel that road, to know what that road is going to be. Now, we're in the Orlando area, and we had gone to do some fun activities as a family, and the GPS got set for bringing us back home. Now, the way it took us, however, was not in a path that my family who lives here was familiar with. That being said, what path it did take us on, because it wasn't the norm, it was a new path that was so less in traffic, so easy to travel, beautiful and new and simple, and it was a delightful path. But what if we had said, no, we want to go down the old path because that's the path that's known. Now, if it's known and it's working, then go down that path. But if it's known and it's not working, even if it gets you to the goal, then you have to decide if you want to go down a different road, right? So think about what road you want to go down and how you want to travel that road to the end results. It's always going to bring us back home, or it's always going to get you to the baby, or it's always going to be a healthy mother, healthy baby, or your baby is always going to be fed. But it's how you want to get there, and in what way do you want that road to travel. So let me make sure I don't miss anything tonight. In traveling these roads, the one thing that you have to do within your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, is to surrender the fear over. Surrender the fear, let go of it, and begin trusting and believing in what is possible. Because possibilities are endless. Now, I was a mother who adopted my child. I wanted to be a mother. Being a mother was super important to me. And yes, I tried all of the various ways. So what had to happen was to get past the cloud that said, the fear is it'll never happen, and say, let's put aside that one and let's go forward and become a parent. So I adopted my son, and I said, yes, but I want to breastfeed him. People said, I don't know if you can do that. And I said, well, I am going to. And so I set on a path to do that. Now, one of these lives, I'm going to talk about adopting or surrogacy and breastfeeding and how that works, because it also applies to birth givers, to moms who are struggling with milk supply or difficulties in being able to nurse their babies. And there are other alternatives that sometimes we think are either too much trouble or that we can't do. And I'm here to tell you that you can, if you want to. You may not want to, and that's okay. So think about beginning with the end in mind, allowing yourself to begin walking a journey that will help you put into place the things that will give you the smoothest route, the most beautiful view, and sometimes it's not the route you've taken before. Now, obviously, being a home birth midwife, that's one of the things that I understand, is that some families may have chosen different routes to get to the same end, which is a healthy mother and a healthy baby. And then they come and they choose to use midwifery care and go for a birth that is in their home. And that's a different route to the same end, right? Now, I have a different philosophy that when you get to the end, it has a lot more to do with the soul and the spirit and the well-being of the family and of the baby. That although they're both healthy, it was a very different way of helping to create that health, mind, body, and spirit. So take and look at what you want and what's important to you, because it might be that some of the roads you want to go on to get to the end and have a natural birth or have a well-fed, breastfed baby, there might be things on that journey that you want to start evaluating. Letting go of the cloud, coming into the sunshine and the rainbow, and being able to give you and your family the best opportunity for the greatest possibility. Because fear is a big, ominous, dark cloud. And what's behind the big, ominous, dark cloud? That's a question to you. What's behind the cloud? The sun, right? And the sun will come out. It will shine. And it will give you greater ability to see what direction you want to go. You just have to be able to look beyond the clouds and look for the rainbow and the sun, because they're always going to be there. And there are so many people that are there to help each of you in whatever that is in your life, be it just life circumstances or a pregnancy or a birth, breastfeeding, parenting. There are so many people that are available to help you, give you ideas, give you suggestions, give you thoughts and possibilities where you can begin to create the best picture that's right for you. And I always say that because as a midwife, I have enough wisdom to know that it isn't picture perfect every time, right? And you have to be able to have the best possibilities for you. And when you do, and you can smile about that and take ownership for that and feel empowered by that situation, then you can also go forward in time and know that you accomplished something magnificent, right? So as you can hear my voice, I'm going to keep things a little shorter tonight, and I'm going to be closing this particular live. I have so appreciated each and every one of you for your comments, for joining me on the live, be it Instagram or on Facebook, for sharing this with others, that it might improve what goes on inside their hearts, in their minds, in their lives, that they might have greater joy, a greater sense of accomplishments, a greater sense of knowing that we are all here to learn, to love, to laugh, and to be able to grow upon our journeys. One wise mentor that I had years and years ago, when I overcame a great challenge, she said, "Wonderful, you will have many, many more." And I looked at her stunned, like, "You mean this isn't it?" I thought I had figured it all out. And over the years, I have learned that we get an opportunity to learn more and more and more every day. So just keep learning, keep loving, keep listening, keep finding those places within your hearts. Keep looking at your children and saying to them, "I give you a hug because you are amazing. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to because you are important, and I love you." Love yourself too, because as a parent, it's hard work every single day. But keep smiling, laughing, and sometimes you just gotta be able to sit and play in the sand, because that's all it takes that day, is just playing in the sand. Have an amazing week. I will see you next Wednesday back in California again, and I hope you have a wonderful night of sweet and wonderful dreams. Thank you. Bye for now.